Fracture prints your digital photos directly onto glass, making your favorite moments come alive in vivid color. Hand-assembled in the USA, Fracture glass prints are a unique and beautiful way to display and share your favorite moments. Simply upload your photo at fractureme.com, select your size, and your glass print will be shipped to you, ready to hang with just one screw. Use code POD15 to get 15% off your order today. That's code POD15 at fractureme.com.
The Cincinnati Bengals play here. ESPN 1530.
Sure do. Good afternoon. How you doing? My name's Mo Egger. This is ESPN 1530. So glad you're here. Hope you're having a great Thursday. Just a good Thursday. A great Thursday. We're loaded today. A ton of stuff to get to. Reds don't play tonight, which kind of stinks. Because they've obviously been killing it. We do have some baseball stuff to get to. Chad Brendel's going to be on this show. Normally, Chad is with us during football and basketball season, but the UC basketball season has not really ended, and I'm not really sure when it's going to. We still don't know if at one point there's going to be a resolution to the John Brandon situation, but we don't know when, and we don't know what that resolution may look like. So Chad fills us in on what's going on and maybe gives us an idea of what he thinks is next. Coming up in just about 40 minutes. Today I crossed something off a list that I've wanted to cross off a list for a very long time. You know, in this business, there are times that you come to work and, you know, there's not a lot going on. There's certain lulls in the sports calendar where there's not a lot happening. And then, you know, you have an extreme example a year ago at this time when there were no sports at all. And, you know, sometimes you'll pull some topics off the shelf that are all reliable, right? One of those has, since I started my on-air career, one of those topics that you could pull off the shelf has been, why don't the Bengals have a Ring of Honor? Should they have a Ring of Honor? If they did have a Ring of Honor, what would it look like? Who would be in it? Who would be in your Ring of Honor? Well, some of those questions still persist, but the one that triggers it is no longer a question. And now I have to cross off my list of go-to, tried and true, slow sports take topics. I've got to cross off, why don't the Bengals have a Ring of Honor? Because this morning they announced they are going to have one this year. Here's the Bengals Executive Vice President speaking this morning, Katie Blackburn.
The Ring of Honor represents excellence, innovation, and the best of the best. This exclusive group will include former players, coaches, and individuals who played a significant role in our franchise's history. 4 people will make up the inaugural class, and we are here to celebrate the first 2 inductees, Pro Football Hall of Famers Paul Brown and Anthony Munoz. We could not have asked for 2 better representatives of our team, our city, and the sport of football. With that, I am happy to answer any of your questions. All right,
so I misspoke. That wasn't Katie Blackburn. That's Elizabeth Blackburn, who's going to be on this show at 4:05. Don't tell her that I misidentified her as her mom. Nonetheless, that's Elizabeth Blackburn, who's really been the face and the voice and the energy behind a lot of the stuff the Bengals have done this offseason. And we have not had Elizabeth on this show yet, so I'm excited. The Bengals are having a Ring of Honor. And yes, is it overdue? Sure, yes. I don't know how you can focus on that. They're doing it. They're going to put Paul Brown in. They're going to put Anthony Munoz in. And then they will announce the 2 people joining those figures in the inaugural class. There'll be a dedicated Ring of Honor home game later this year. There will be a halftime ceremony. The other 2 people that go in will be voted on by season ticket members and suite holders. The ballot that they'll choose from is going to be released in May, so the inaugural class is going to be 4 people deep. Remember, it doesn't necessarily have to be players. Paul Brown obviously was not a Bengals player, although kind of a no-brainer. And Anthony Munoz, sort of the same, but they're doing it. They're doing it. And good for them, and more importantly, good for us, because now is the fun part. And if you have been on social media at all today, if you listen to Cincy 360, I know Lance is going to do basically 3 hours on this tonight. You've heard and participated in and watched unfold some fun debates. You know what's fun to talk about? Who should be in a Hall of Fame, or who should be in a Ring of Honor, or who should have their jersey number retired. Those are fun discussions to have. We do it with the Reds. We do it with every major sport in the Hall of Fame. We're going to do it with the Bengals, and we're going to do it with the Bengals, and there's going to be some substance to it because they're actually going to honor their former players. Now, I understand that you will find fans of every team who don't care about things like this, and that's okay. There's no one way to consume a team's product. But the reality is there are a lot of fans for whom this kind of stuff is important, for whom this kind of stuff is a big deal, and for whom this kind of stuff is fun. There are going to be fun debates. By the way, people are talking about the Cincinnati Bengals today. Nobody is mentioning the fact that they have had 5 consecutive losing seasons. Nobody today is focusing on what the team hasn't been able to do in the playoffs. Nobody is focusing on anything other than great players in the franchise's history, high moments in the franchise's history, and which Bengals figures are among the best of the best who should be celebrated and will be celebrated. And to a larger degree, people are talking about how the Cincinnati Bengals are finally in touch with its public. And yes, this is a franchise I have criticized in the past for being tone deaf. And yes, things like this are way, way, way overdue. And yes, I certainly wish I hadn't spent the majority of the last, whatever it's been, 13, 14 years, screaming and yelling that the Bengals should have a Hall of Fame, should have a Ring of Honor, should do something, anything for their former players. But you know what they are. And now the fun part begins. Who should go in that inaugural class with Anthony Munoz and Paul Brown? For me, the answer to that question is pretty simple. But this is, again, one of those fun sports discussions in which there's no real wrong answer here. If it's me, and I will vote, I think you got to do Ken Riley and Ken Anderson. Now, if it ends up being Chad Johnson, great. Chad Johnson's a Bengals Ring of Honor player. He's been that good. He's that significant. He's one of the most significant players to ever wear orange and black. But for me, there's 2 things. Number one, the Ken Riley induction is overdue. He unfortunately is not going to be around for it because he passed away last year. But Ken Riley is also, along with Ken Anderson, I think the 2 guys who I think you would say are closest to being Pro Football Hall of Famers. If you're going to make a compelling, this guy should be in the Pro Football Hall of Fame in Canton case, I think the ones you make those most for are Ken Riley and Ken Anderson. Anthony Munoz is a no-brainer. He is in Canton. Paul Brown, to a large degree, is a no-brainer. I might have said, look, his name's on the stadium. Let's expand the class, or let's use Paul's spot for somebody else. But it's Paul Brown. He founded football in Cincinnati. He's one of the most significant figures in the history of the NFL. It is a travesty that there is no Paul Brown trophy like there is the George Halas trophy or the Vince Lombardi trophy. So, yes, Paul Brown. But for me, I'm talking about the greatest quarterback in the history of the franchise, and that is Kenny Anderson, who has Hall of Fame bona fides. He's not in, but he's got Hall of Fame bona fides. He has one of the best cases, and if it's not Ken Anderson, then it's Ken Riley, who should have been given his moment. 14 years with the franchise. He's one of the best players in the history, not just of the Bengals, but he's one of the most accomplished defensive backs ever. I want to put Ken Riley in. I want to put Kenny Anderson in. I defer to players, not that Ken Anderson is old or going anywhere. He's still very active. His foundation is very active. We had him on the show maybe 2 months ago. Love Kenny Anderson. But I do think there's something to let's take care of these guys while we're here and take some guys who are going to be here for a while, like Chad and like Boomer and like many, many others, and they'll get their day. Now, if the voting gives us different results, that's okay too. Nobody's going to argue that Ken Riley shouldn't be in the Ring of Honor. He, unfortunately, after his passing, might just have to wait another year. Same for Ken Anderson. But this, I said when it looked like there was the really distinct chance that the Bengals were going to do this, not necessarily a fear, but I said, look, let's make sure this is done right. Let's not just take 25 guys, put them in the Ring of Honor, and we're done. Wipe our hands. Let's make this a recurring thing. I don't know if it's going to be every year. I don't know if it's going to be every other year. I don't know if it's going to occur in regularly scheduled interviews. I don't know, in intervals, I should say. I don't know if there's going to be every year at least 4 people have to go in, or every year 1 person's going to go in. But just don't do it all en masse. Just don't take 30 dudes and say they're in the Ring of Honor. Don't do it like that. Give everybody that's going to get in, give them their moment, give them their year. Let's not crowd everybody in. Let's give every guy's story a chance to be told. If it's me, I'm going Riley, Anderson on top of the first 2. I do think very, very soon you got to put in Dave Lapham. I obviously think Boomer Esiason. I clearly think somebody like Chad Johnson. There are numbers of others. It's got to be exclusive. We're not just going to take anybody who's had a 1,000-yard rushing season or a double-digit sack year. There's obviously going to be some players who hit retirement here soon who are going to be in the conversation as Bengals Ring of Honor members. But those are discussions we can have from now on. And it's meaningful. And there's some substance to it. Because instead of us having discussions about an imaginary Ring of Honor, or a mythical Ring of Honor, or a Ring of Honor done on some website, or in some bar somewhere, the Bengals are going to do it. And they're going to make fans a part of it. And they're going to bring those players back. And they'll be celebrated. And they'll be there at the game. And their story will be told. And that's really important. This franchise historically has shied away from telling its most significant members' stories. And that's why I think there's a couple of generations of Bengals fans who, unless they seek knowledge of the Bengals and their history, and look, we're not exactly talking about the Green Bay Packers here. I do understand that. We're not, we're not talking about an NFL franchise that is storied compared to many others in the National Football League, but they've been around for more than 50 years. And they've had guys who have created moments that have resonated in people's lives for the duration of those lives, including mine. So, but I think to a degree, the Bengals' reluctance to this point to help tell those stories has has helped cultivate generations of fans who don't know as much about this franchise's history as you might if they were better at telling the story of their all-time greats. And this is a step in the right direction. So now the fun part begins. Who should go in? Simple question. We could do this now. I've been waiting for 14 years to do this. Who goes in with Paul Brown and Anthony Munoz? 513-749-1530. It's got to be the 2 Kens as far as I'm concerned, but I got to be honest with you. You want to tell me it should be someone else? Let's have the discussion. Seriously, we could finally have the discussion. This is a discussion I've waited for. I started on the air May of 2007. I never thought I'd be able to actually have this talk. We can, and it matters. There is a question that I've asked on Twitter that I want to get to, at MoEgger1530. It applies to this. But the good news, by the way, the video the Bengals did announcing the Ring of Honor is on my blog. You could read the official press release from the Bengals, how the Ring of Honor is going to go down, what the process is going to be. There's a quote from Mike Brown. There's a quote from Katie Blackburn, all on my blog at ESPN1530.com/Mo. Anthony Munoz is going to join us at 5:05. Elizabeth Blackburn is going to join us at 4:05. I am looking forward to that. Reds are off, getting set to play the Diamondbacks in the first road game of the season for Cincinnati tomorrow. We'll spend some time on that coming up in just a couple of minutes. It's 19 minutes after 3. This is ESPN 1530, Cincinnati Sports Station.
Fracture prints your digital photos directly onto glass, making your favorite moments come alive in vivid color. Hand-assembled in the USA, Fracture glass prints are a unique and beautiful way to display and share your favorite moments. Simply upload your photo at fractureme.com, select your size, and your glass print will be shipped to you, ready to hang with just 1 screw. Use code POD15 to get 15% off your order today. That's code POD15 at fractureme.com.
And the nominees for Best Supporting Role in an Ocean Ecosystem are Great White Shark, Hammerhead Shark, Goblin Shark.
There are more than 500 species of sharks, and they all play crucial roles.
Cookie Cutter Shark.
Don't miss Sharks, a jaw-dropping exhibit at the California Academy of Sciences with life-size models, fossils, and more.
Wobbegong Shark.
Now open. Make your reservation at calacademy.org.
Zebra Shark.
It's after 3. This is ESPN 1530. I'm Mo Egger. You can follow me on Twitter at Mo Egger 1530. Please do. I have a question about the Bengals Ring of Honor. Open-ended question on Twitter. Check that out. We'll get to the Reds coming up here in just a bit. Cincinnati is off tonight. First road game of the season. Tomorrow night, Reds open up a 3-game set against the Diamondbacks. Obviously, Reds coming off a great season-opening homestand that finished up with yesterday's 11-4 win over the Pittsburgh Pirates. By the way, was it really a thing? Were people really mad at Amir Garrett because he was taunting the Pirates after giving up a grand slam in a game that the Reds won by 7 runs? Life is really damn good if that's your biggest complaint right now. Now, I'd like to see Amir throw the ball better. His 2 outings have been rocky, to say the least. But I kind of defer to him and his track record. There's my, like, it's not even every team gets an all-star, but if you had to make a bold prediction, which is a thing people do before opening day, mine was that Amir Garrett makes the all-star team. And I still think that's going to happen, despite his ERA of over 22. Pat, you're on ESPN 1530. How are you?
Mo, I am giddy at a level that I never thought I could achieve by hearing something as simple as a Ring of Honor for the Bengals. I mean, the suffering has gone on for so long with just the simplest of gestures to incorporate the community in that stadium, which to some looks like a parking garage. And it's the great Paul Brown, the father of modern football's great-granddaughter, who seems to be the driving force behind this.
Yes. Yeah, it
and
does.
I mean, and to think that you look at people talk about coaching trees. Well, let's see. Paul Brown's kind of got one of the most awesome because if you think about the 70s, a guy named Chuck Noll, who played for him at Cleveland, and then the 80s, Bill Walsh, who coached underneath him, and I was mad at the Bengals for about 5 years when they didn't hire Bill as the head coach. But, you know, I had to get over that because then they hired one of my favorite players ever, Forrest Gregg.
Right.
And the thing that was cool about Forrest Gregg was I worked for him one summer because we landscaped his house, and he was going on a flight to California, and he was going to go look at a kid from Southern California named Anthony Munoz. And I said, well, you know, the only time I've ever seen him play was when he single-handedly destroyed the left side of Ohio State's defensive line in the Rose Bowl. And I said, when he's really healthy, he's a monster. Well, when Forrest came back, I was just out of my mind. Forrest, how was it? He said, he stuck his arm out and knocked me down. Forrest Gregg was a huge man.
Hall of Fame offensive lineman in his own rights, yes.
Yeah, and I mean, and that was the love affair with the Bengals going to the stadium, and we had season tickets at the very top of the stadium because that's the only place we could get 7. And then it just kind of eroded because the sad days and in my children's life, Mo, they've never seen the Bengals win a playoff game, and they've been down there for some of the really wild ones, and they've been down there for some of the bad ones too. But my older daughters both love the Bengals. My son, he became a Patriot fan inexplicably, and, well, that's his choice because, you know, the guy that backed him was a pretty good guy. But now the conversation with Reds as well as Bengals is all positive.
Yeah.
And, I mean, it grabs a community, and it just makes it the excitement to be at that stadium when the Bengals were relevant. And something as simple as a young lady convincing her grandfather and her mom, let's do this. Let's be more active on Twitter. Let's step into the modern era. It's just astounding.
Yeah, and it's all about, at the end of the day, it's all about fan engagement. If you come off as in touch with your fans, that can go a long way. And that has been, even when the Bengals have put good products on the field, it has felt like that fans have been held at arm's length, right? That they haven't been totally in touch with what people want. And I've never met Elizabeth. I'm looking forward to chatting with her here in about 35 minutes. She seems to get it. She seems to understand, look, we as an organization have to do a better job of fan outreach. And by the way, the Clue phone should have gone off when they look at their attendance totals. Last year, a bit of an outlier because of COVID. But, I mean, this is a franchise that has had a hard time, even in some really good years, selling games out. In recent seasons, obviously, there have been tens of thousands of seats that have gone unsold. And, yes, winning takes care of a lot of that. But in a day and age where people have more choices, in a day and age where people can consume your product in a modern, comfortable way that's unparalleled to anything we've ever had and not pay for it in person, there is something about extending olive branches to your fan base, to your public, and it feels like she, and by extension that franchise, really do seem to understand that.
And I honestly think that what you were saying, by having things like Twitter, people that don't necessarily want to go to a game, but they're engaged with the team, they're going to buy shirts, they're going to buy hats, they're going to buy jerseys, and they're going to be part of that community that is the community of Bengal fans. And so many of us have had they turned their backs on us. You're dying for a product that makes you happy and excited. You go down there and you get disappointed. Pretty soon, it's just heartburn and heartache, and you don't want to be a part of it. And now this is a step in the right direction by what I consider a brilliant young lady who she's going to be part of the operation of that team for how long? Because do you think for any reason the Browns are going to let go of it?
No, I don't think they will. I think the Brown family ownership will outlive both of us. Pat, thank you so much.
Thank you, Mo.
I appreciate the phone call. Look, yeah, I mean that's a fair point. Elizabeth Blackburn is going to be somebody that we are talking about and hearing from, and hopefully here talking to for quite a while. I mean that for better or for worse, they are a family-run franchise. But again, I mean there's something that I think just makes people feel good when it feels like their voice matters. At the end of the day, it sounds really stupid, but sports are supposed to make people feel good. It does make people feel good when it feels like their voice is being heard, when it feels like they have a say in what's going on. Nostalgia does make people feel good. You don't have to make your franchise be all about the past in order to give proper respect to it. I hear this sometimes with the Reds. Well, see, all they do is care about these old players, and, it takes away from what the product is on the field. And I go, wait a minute, no. You're supposed to do both. The St. Louis Cardinals do both. The St. Louis Cardinals go to a Cardinals opening day. It ain't like Cincinnati, but they bring back Ozzie Smith, and they bring back, in recent years, they've brought back Lou Brock, who passed away, and Bob Gibson, who recently passed away. And they bring back, some of their legends. And they're also really good on the field. You can do both. And yes, we're only going to really be able to enjoy this to its maximum capabilities if what we see on the field matches what the team starts to do in terms of fan outreach. And they're not where they need to be yet. But it is a significant step in what they are doing. Matters to a lot of people. 29 minutes away from 4 o'clock. 513-749-1530 and 866-702-3776. At Mo Egger 1530 is how you can hit me up on Twitter. Speaking of putting pressure on front offices, there's something else I'd like to see. Tell you what it is next on ESPN 1530, Cincinnati Sports Station. Bengals are getting a Ring of Honor. The sports update's a service of Kelsey Chevrolet, home of lifetime powertrain protection and a guaranteed credit approval. From their family to yours for life, KelseyChev.com. Bengals announced the formation of a Ring of Honor to recognize former players, coaches, and individuals who have played a significant role in the franchise's history. It's going to be displayed on the east facade inside Paul Brown Stadium and live on Bengals digital channels. 4 people will be inducted in the inaugural class with a halftime ceremony during a Bengals home game this year. So 4 will go in, 2 have been decided, 2 will be voted on by season ticket holders and suite ticket holders. One of the 2 who is going in or who has been announced to go in with the inaugural class, along with Paul Brown, is the great Anthony Munoz.
Well, again, excitement and just the memory of being teammates. Sure, you're only going to have, a certain number of guys to be there. But from what I understand, it's going to be a celebration for all guys, which I think is cool. Not just the guys going in the Ring of Honor, but like you just said, the teammates. And I think, I think that's going to be exciting to be part of that celebration, because quite frankly, I'm going in, maybe the guy that played next to me is not going in, but he is very important in me getting involved, getting inducted in this Ring of Honor because, he was a very important part of my career and all the other guys I played with. So I really believe it's going to be exciting for guys going in and guys that might not go in.
The greatest Bengal of all time joins us at 5:05. Off day for the Reds. They're in Arizona tomorrow. First road trip of the season starts with 3 against the Diamondbacks. Tyler Mahle against righty Taylor Widener. 9:35 tomorrow night, 700 WLW. Cincinnati hits the road after 5 consecutive wins to close out a season-opening 6-game homestand. Masters underway, round 1. Jim Herman carded 4 over 76. Xavier's Jason Kokrak was 2 over through 10. Brian Harmon and Hideki Matsuyama tied atop the leaderboard, 3 under. There you go. It's 21 away from 4 o'clock. Your phone calls in the Ring of Honor are still ahead. Elizabeth Blackburn's going to be on this show in just about 25 minutes. I have not had her on. I am terrified by the fact, though, that she says she's really in tune, really in touch with Bengals Twitter. And I don't know that I consider myself part of Bengals Twitter because there's some diehard folks on Bengals Twitter, and that's all they tweet about, and God love them for it. But on game day, yeah, I contribute. And I'm just wondering when she says she's in touch with Bengals Twitter, how in touch? And we'll talk about the formation of the team's Ring of Honor. Meanwhile, we're in a holding pattern. This this thing at UC, no resolution today. John Brandon is still suspended. There's no interim coach. We don't know what's going to happen. We talked with Chad Brendel at the beginning of the week. We're closing in on the end of the week. We'll get Chad's thoughts on if we're any closer to a resolution and maybe how this is playing out among other coaches at the University of Cincinnati. Lots to get to with Chad. We'll have that conversation next on ESPN 1530. Team from 4, this is ESPN 1530. I'm Mo Egger. What's today, the 8th? April 8th? We still have seen no smoke coming out of the Lindner Center. Although today's visibility isn't great, so from where I sit, maybe there is some smoke. But this this ordeal with the UC basketball situation, which is compelling to a degree, fatiguing to a degree, and frankly not helpful to anybody involved, just continues to drag on. And so I kind of wanted to get an update. Chad's in Chad Brendel's website, bearcatjournal.com. And usually in this spot during football and basketball season. But let's face it, the basketball season has not yet ended at UC. And frankly, may never will. I don't know. So I wanted to bring Chad on to talk about the latest. If there is anything that you could qualify as the latest, it's good to have you as always. What's going on?
Oh, Mo, I was explaining to Taryn I'm about to enter dad-husband heaven here over the next 5 days.
Really?
Yeah, the wife and daughter are going out of town for 5 days, leaving me here with the dogs.
There is something special about that. I've been the beneficiary of that. There is something special about that.
Yeah, I mean, we've been locked up pretty much for the past year plus, and now I get 5 days all to myself. But you know what's going to happen is something's going to happen like tomorrow, and I'm going to be stuck at my desk for the next 5 days.
Well, all right, so from my standpoint, there's good and bad to that because, Chad, I just want this over. I just want this to end.
I do too.
I just want this over. Is there anything that would suggest that I'm going to get, that many of us are going to get what we want anytime soon?
I mean, it's so hard to tell, but to my knowledge, the independent fact finders were still talking to players and interviewing people as recently as yesterday. That doesn't give me a warm and fuzzy feeling that they're close to wrapping this thing up. So,
Fracture prints your digital photos directly onto glass, making your favorite moments come alive in vivid color. Hand assembled in the USA, Fracture glass prints are a unique and beautiful way to display and share your favorite moments. Simply upload your photo at fractureme.com, select your size, and your glass print will be shipped to you, ready to hang with just one screw. Use code POD15 to get 15% off your order today. That's code POD15 at fractureme.com.
Be the first to experience Great Wolf Lodge Manteca, your drive-to destination for family fun. Bringing families together guides everything we do. It's why we created the Paw Pledge, our program focused on health and safety so you can focus on your family. Sure, there are water slides, games, and plenty of adventure, but we're here so you can connect and grow closer than ever before. Let us keep you safe while you play. Book your family getaway at the new Great Wolf Lodge Manteca. Use code California for exclusive deals at greatwolf.com.
I wish I had an answer that didn't make me want to run my head into a wall, but unfortunately I want to run my head into a wall. It doesn't make any sense, Mo. Here's my thing. Like, look, I get that there's a process, and if you're going to fire John Brandon for cause, then you have to go through a certain portion of this process, but shouldn't this have been considered when deciding a plan of action? Like, how long might this take? We might not have a basketball coach until May. Well, that's a red flag, and we should probably maybe reconsider our position. Potentially. I mean, it just every day puts more strain on the health of the long-term health of the basketball program. And I can't believe that, we're in this situation where we're going through this again. It's mind-numbing that the university continues to put its bell cow, and say what you want, and somebody close to the football program said this to me over this past week. Look, football has been good at the University of Cincinnati for like 15 years, like total.
Mm-hmm.
This is a basketball school. Mm-hmm. This is a school where the tradition and the history in athletics is directly tied to basketball. And this is a fan base that was cultivated over 60, 70 years rooting for the basketball program. How this continues to happen to the basketball program, I can't remotely fathom, and it's frustrating, and it's maddening.
When all of this started, and I mean right after the season when players hit the portal, there was a thought that I think that a lot of people had that, okay, well, perhaps the school can step in and keep those guys from transferring, and if that means you get rid of the coach, then those players are worth keeping, you get rid of the coach. Fine, that was almost 3 weeks ago. If you're going to do something in an effort to keep those guys from transferring, how much longer are those guys going to wait? At some point, they're not going to wait for you to finish your fact finding, to finish your investigation, to finish raising money if you got to buy the guy out. Like, if that was the purpose, if the purpose was we don't want these guys to transfer, and so we're going to examine how our program is being run, that's got to be done in a short amount of time, or else it's a wasted effort because those guys aren't going to stick around either way. Yeah.
I mean, if you're, Mason Madsen's being recruited by New Mexico. Can Mason Madsen just call Rick Pitino every day? Like Richard Pitino, is like, hey, we want you to come. And Mason Madsen's like, patience, coach. Like, I'm going to need you to have some patience, which is the message that has been delivered to the players that are in the portal. We need you to have patience. So Richard Pitino, I know you have a spot on your roster that you would like me to take, but I'm going to need you to have some patience. And then Richard Pitino hangs up the phone and goes, I'm going to call one of these 700 other kids in the portal that are like Mason Madsen and fill that spot. So, continuing, what I would say is continuing to ask those guys for patience and to wait is almost malpractice to the kids, because they're going to lose out on potential opportunities, and they're going to lose out on situations that might be a great fit for them if they continue to wait. And what if the new coach comes in and says, I don't want these guys, or these guys don't fit what I want to do, or whatever the case may be. Like, I just don't think it's right to continue to ask those kids to be patient when you have nobody has any idea when the end is in sight, because the lawyers are in charge of this situation right now. And I've said this to you, I think, last week. Lawyers get paid by the hour for a reason, and that reason is because they don't work fast. When's the last time you've heard a lawyer talk about expediting a process? Never. That's not what they do. So what are we doing?
I understand that they don't just have $5.25 million laying around. But if you are going to enter this process where you are going to try to find a reason to fire your coach, you're going to alienate him. He's going to lawyer up. Litigation is a possibility. If litigation is a possibility, then being forced to pay the $5.25 million or a comparable amount is something that you have to prepare for. So it's easy to dismiss the person who goes, look, you don't want him here. You don't want him as the coach, right, wrong, or indifferent. Cut him the check and go. And it's easy to say to that, well, look, they don't have that kind of money laying around. But if you're going to start this process, you do have to have as a contingency plans to pay him. And so to me, you dip into that money and you raise a little bit more if the alternative is you drag your program through weeks of uncertainty, weeks of hell. There's all sorts of collateral damage. Your next head coach gets off to a start where he's behind the eight ball right away, playing catch up. Your kids aren't in limbo. Your fans aren't in limbo. And you move on. To me, that is money worth paying at this point. Even if it comes at the expense of football, which I know is a consideration, even if it's a tough bullet to bite for UC, it's worth it at this point, because what is happening right now and what is going to continue to happen until there's a resolution is awful for all parties involved.
I mean, I agree, but they don't even have that money to give to football. We just saw them cut the locker room project in half, and they don't have the half.
So then how do you even start this process? How do you even start this process if you don't have in mind, look, this is going to cost us something. There's a really good chance it's not as cut and dry as he goes, we don't pay him a dime. Maybe we don't have to pay him the 5.25, but we might have to. I mean, it was a possibility. If it was a possibility, then you had to be able to financially handle that possibility. That is staggering to me.
Yeah, I mean, that's the insane part of choosing this path, with the only end game being we're firing John Brandon from cause and paying him $0. That was the end game. No other possible outcome was on the table for the University of Cincinnati, I don't believe. I talked to a lot of people in and around the program. I don't know of anyone that has been contacted to set up a drive, whatever you want to call it, to cover John Brandon's buyout. I don't know of anyone that's been contacted for that. So it's not even on the table, to my understanding. Gathering money to pay John Brandon to go away is not something that's even remotely been explored. It is option A, fire John Brandon for cause, pay him $0. Option B, oh crap, here we are.
With no resolution in sight. I mean, the damage that is being done to every party involved here is ridiculous and, frankly, I think unnecessary.
Well, people talk about, they've got a $1.5 billion endowment. Well, then you don't know how endowments work.
Right.
That money's earmarked when people donate it. That money is grant money. That money is not for the athletic department to just say, hey, can we get $5 million of that, please and thank you? If they could do that, guess what? Luke Fickell would have an $8 million second floor of the Linder Center right now. But that's not how it works. You have to raise that money.
I have 1 minute here. You mentioned Luke Fickell. If you are Luke Fickell watching all of this unfold, what are you thinking?
Well, I think we have to, and this I haven't really heard this mentioned much. I think we have to remember Luke Fickell has been through stuff like this. He's been through what happened with Jim Tressel. He's been through what happened with Urban Meyer. He's watched athletic programs handle it in some ways properly, in some ways very poorly. And that was with a veteran athletic director that knew what he was doing. I can't imagine he's watching what's happening to the basketball program and thinking, no big deal. I can't imagine that. I can't fathom a place where Luke Fickell isn't at least at minimum paying attention to this and raising his eyebrows. That's his boss that's in charge of this process. And I don't say that to incite panic, but I think the obvious answer to this question is you have to assume that Luke Fickell has his eye on things and is at least observing from afar and making judgments on how he feels about how this is being handled. And I would guess, like most coaches, he's probably pro-coach, probably more so than he is pro-athletic director.
Always appreciate the time. I'm sure we'll do it next week. Thank you as always. Appreciate
Thanks
it.
Thanks as always, Mo.
You can hear the exasperation in my voice.
I know. And hopefully my 5 days of freedom are ruined by work, because that would mean that this is almost over, and I just want it to be over.
Yeah, I do too. All right, nonetheless, enjoy. We'll talk next week. Thanks so much.
All right, thanks, man.
Chad Brendle's website, BearcatJournal.com. Follow him on Twitter at Chad Brendle. Bengals are going to have a Ring of Honor. Elizabeth Blackburn helped make this happen. She will join us next.
Are you ready for some football? We are.
This is Dave Lapham, and you're listening to the home of the Bengals, ESPN 1530.
See, he'll be in the Ring of Honor one day, Dave Lapham. Well, at least I will get one vote. So, yes, he'll be in the Ring of Honor one day. If they listen to me, Lapp will be in the Ring of Honor. How you doing? I'm Mo Egger. This is ESPN 1530. Thank you so much for listening. Glad you're here. Bengals announced today something we have discussed for God knows how many different segments on this show over the years. They're launching a Ring of Honor, and as you might expect, Anthony Munoz is going to be in the inaugural class, and we'll chat with the greatest Bengal of all time in 1 hour. He will go in with Paul Brown, and there will be 2 spots up for grabs, subject to a vote of season ticket holders and suite holders later this spring. This will be a recurring event. The Bengals announcing it today. The video they produced, which is extraordinarily well done, is on my website at espn1530.com/Mo. A driving force behind what we've seen this team do over the last couple of months, which is they've shown a willingness to be more engaging with fans. The social media account of the Cincinnati Bengals has been great. They're getting new uniforms. There is a genuine effort to, I think, extend an olive branch to the public, and I think there's a lot of fans who feel engaged and energized. And look, obviously, we hope the draft yields players that put a better product on the field and surround Joe Burrow with what he needs. But I genuinely do think it's kind of a fun time to be a Bengals fan, and the Ring of Honor kind of goes hand in hand with that. Person who has helped drive a lot of this is the Director of Strategy and Engagement. She's been profiled in The Athletic. We chatted with Paul Dehner Jr. about that, and this is our first chance to chat with Elizabeth Blackburn on a big day for her and the franchise. I know you've been busy. I appreciate the time this afternoon. How are you?
I'm great. How are you, Mo?
Thanks for having me on. I appreciate you coming on. This is a big deal, and I know you kind of gauge the temperature of a fan base. This has been one of those things that longtime fans, at least, have for years said, look, do something, Hall of Fame, Ring of Honor, retired jersey numbers, bring back former players. This is a big day. I think you grasp how big of a day this is for a lot of longtime Bengals fans.
Absolutely, and I'm just so excited to get to be here and hear from you and hear from the fans to be a part of it.
Walk us through the process. Guide us through everything that got us to the point that we got to today where the announcement was made.
So I can walk you through the process that I've been part of since I joined the team last February in 2020. And right when I came back, I started having conversations internally with folks all over the organization just to understand what we've explored in the past, why we are where we are, and how we can best move forward. And fan engagement it's why I have engagement in my job title. It's critical. And so really, the Ring of Honor has been in the making, certainly debated, considered, talked about before I was here, and then it's been kind of on the agenda since I got back.
Fracture prints your digital photos directly onto glass, making your favorite moments come alive in vivid color. Hand assembled in the USA, Fracture glass prints are a unique and beautiful way to display and share your favorite moments. Simply upload your photo at fractureme.com, select your size, and your glass print will be shipped to you, ready to hang with just one screw. Use code POD15 to get 15% off your order today. That's code POD15 at fractureme.com.
And there were a lot of discussions about, why we haven't done it and how we could do it and in a way that we felt good about. And so it's been really exciting to see all of the steps in the process, from ideation to, what's going to make it enough, and then working with our content team and talking about the archives, talking about the content plan that's going to be critical with this, as well as working with stadium operations, doing stadium walks, testing. A lot of people saw that, testing out, what's going to look good. And it's been a really fun thing to get to be a part of and work on for the last year. And I'm so excited that we get to announce it and confirm it today and keep talking about it all summer and ultimately unveil it in the fall and have the fans and the alumni and legends there to take it in.
You'll have a 4-person inaugural class, and I want to talk about what's next and determining who the next two are with your great-grandfather and with Anthony Munoz. But one of my fears was you and I could sit down, and I bet you we could come up with a list of 40, 50 people that would be deserving of at least consideration for a Ring of Honor. And one of the things I was fearful of was they're going to do this one day and then just have this huge Ring of Honor class, and that's it. And then we'll revisit this in 10 years after players retire. I'm relieved that that's not going to be the case. I like the fact this is going to be recurring. I like the fact that, every year we'll have people to vote on or players to talk about or coaches to debate their merits. How did you decide on the size of the inaugural class and ultimately how this is going to unfold in future years?
Well, Mo, I'm really glad to hear that you've sort of shared our perspective about this not being a one-and-done thing and this really living on in a significant way. So we debated the right size and ultimately just found that 4, it has a nice ring to it, the first 4, and it felt like it just struck a balance of carrying weight but not overcrowding the inaugural class, because it's the inaugural class, and really it's why we're announcing Anthony and Paul Brown now by themselves, to really let it breathe, if you will. And we're really excited and want future years inductees to get their due and get their celebration as well. So we hope that, 4 really strikes that balance for the first year, and are excited for this to continue in the future.
Guide me through the process of determining who is going to be eligible for one of those other 2 spots, and then ultimately how those 2 spots, who gets them, is going to be determined.
Got it. Yep. So in terms of first determining who will be eligible for the vote, it really was a multi-factor analysis and discussion. We took criteria. First, all of the players do have to be retired players. Some Ring of Honors have specific amounts of time dedicated to that. We just are saying they need to be retired players. And
so we can't put Joe Burrow in already.
That's right.
All right.
Exactly. But so once the player is retired, then the other factors that we evaluated in terms of who will be on the initial ballot, and really our criteria was to create a ballot that the organization unanimously felt good about. All the players we would support being in the Ring of Honor, and we considered Pro Bowls, all all-time first team All-Pro, team records, kind of their career with the Bengals, their impact in the community, was as well as the first 50 vote. So during our 50th anniversary, and I'll talk about this in a second, but we are doing the vote in the spring and opening that up for season ticket members and suite holders. We are factoring in fan sentiment because we just recently took a fan as well as media vote to celebrate our 50th anniversary, and those were looked at as well in determining the ballot. So we went through a process to establish a unanimous ballot the organization's excited about, and once we unveil and announce that ballot, season ticket members and suite holders will get to vote, and their vote, that tally, will pick the next two to round out our inaugural class. The voting is meant to be engaging, and hopefully our season ticket members and suite holders enjoy that process and having a say in the vote or in the inaugural class. Also, their vote is tied to their tenure, to really tip our cap to the loyal, many loyal season ticket members and suite holders who've been with us since the beginning or since a very long time. And so your vote will count for your tenure with the Bengals, and we hope that's kind of a fun element to the vote as well.
This will all culminate this year in a Ring of Honor, a designated Ring of Honor game. And obviously the schedule's not out yet, so you can't speak to specifics, but can you sort of take me through what that looks like when the date has been chosen? And my understanding it's a halftime ceremony. What does the Ring of Honor ceremony look and feel like?
Honestly, we're still working through it as we understand fully what the season and games are going to look like this fall. But I'll just say, the organization is really bullish and optimistic about games, the game day environment this fall. And the Ring of Honor game is meant to be a celebration of greatness. And ideally, we're hoping to have additional programming sort of around the game on the weekend as an alumni, Ring of Honor, but broader alumni reunion. We really want it to be a meaningful opportunity to connect with our alumni players, to connect with our fans, season ticket holders. And we had great success around the 50th anniversary. I'm not sure if you or anybody listening had the opportunity to go to any of the programming we did tied into our 50th, but we had a lot of success with that, and I think are hoping to take some of the best elements from that anniversary and build on it for a Ring of Honor game this fall.
I mean, you said, well, I don't know if you had it. I spent that entire summer ranking my own top 50. Are you kidding me? It kept me up at night. You know what I liked about what you guys did with that, though, in all seriousness? It was you had the first 50, but then invited to some of the ceremonies were players outside of the top 50. And those guys are kind of the backbone of a franchise, and it was cool that those guys had a chance to be a part of it. Let me ask you this. I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit here, right? I don't want you to show any favoritism, but you've grown up with this franchise, right? So you have your favorites. Who is the one player that when they go into the Ring of Honor, it may be years from now, it could be an active guy, they go into the Ring of Honor, for you is going to be most meaningful?
I'm going to be honest with you, Mo, and say it's Chad.
All right.
I have 12 Chad Johnson, Chad Ochocinco jerseys. I would be lying if I tried to beat around the question. It would be Chad.
All right. So for me, it's Boomer. I'm older than you. That's like my hero of my youth.
I think Boomer would be my sister's answer, though.
Would be your what? Would be your sister's answer. Okay.
Answer.
Yeah, I get that.
Yes.
All right.
I'm giving you some Boomer love. We have so many amazing, alumni legend players. It's amazing.
Here, all right, another one, because Paul Brown's going to go in right now. If I ask my family members to tell me about my great-grandfather, they're like, "Oh, he fixed air conditioners and he drank scotch." When you ask about Paul Brown, what stories are told?
Oh, man. Mostly, are so many. There are so many. It's amazing. It's a mix of stories from Massillon and stories from his transition between the Browns and then coming and starting the Bengals with my grandpa and my great uncle. There are so many, and unfortunately I never got to meet him. So that's I just really enjoy hearing stories and learning about him. He's an amazing, successful, impressive individual.
It drives me nuts. There is a George Halas trophy, a Lamar Hunt trophy, a Vince Lombardi trophy, all deservedly so. The league doesn't do anything for Paul Brown. So after you get this done, you got to start banging on Roger Goodell's for me and get that changed, okay?
Love it. Mo, consider it on my to-do list.
All right, I have one more. I have one more question. I've enjoyed talking to you. I've wanted to do this for a couple of weeks now. So my guy at The Athletic, Paul Danner Jr., wrote about you and some of the efforts that you're sort of in charge of here with the Bengals, and they're great. But I was a little concerned where you're quoted as saying that you're very in touch with Bengals Twitter. And as a Twitter user, I have to ask, how in touch are you?
I don't really know how to answer that. You want to reword your question?
Basically, have any of my tweets shown up on your radar?
Of course.
Oh, great. Good. That's nice.
Don't worry. I knew what I was getting into here.
Not the answer I was hoping for. You're doing a great job, seriously. As a lifelong fan, as someone who I've spent so much time saying they've got to do a Ring of Honor, they've got to do a better job of engaging and being involved in fan outreach. I could tell from people who care about this franchise what you're doing is resonating, and it matters. It matters to a lot of people. So, congrats on getting this done. But call us again. Don't be a stranger. I love talking about this kind of stuff. You have such a unique perspective, and I really do think it's a fun time to be a Bengals fan, and I hope you feel the love from people who are really appreciative of this in particular with the Ring of Honor. So thanks so much.
That's really kind of you. Thanks so much, Mo, for having me on.
Anytime.
I really appreciate it. Have a great rest of your show.
We'll try. Thank you. Elizabeth Blackburn is the Bengals Director of Strategy and Engagement. Anthony Munoz will be on this show coming up at 5. Taryn, we need Elizabeth Blackburn on the show more often. Anthony Munoz will be on this show at 5:05. Your phone calls are ahead. ESPN 1530, Cincinnati Sports Station. And Jones on baseball about 30 minutes away. Today, there's actually a chance they talk about baseball. Let's take a phone call, 513-749-1530. And 866-702-3776. This part of the show is brought to you by House of Pain. Pretty much hit the post right there. Pretty much just banged it right there. There we go. Greg is in Madeira on ESPN 1530. Hi, Greg.
Hey, Mo, how you doing, man?
I'm great. What's going on?
I tell you what, man, the Bengals Ring of Honor, you know what? I mean, I'm 34 years old, but you look at some of these, so Bengals have been around a lot longer than that, obviously. So you got to think about the fans that have, seen the Bengals since 1968, how awesome it is for them,
Yeah, I mean, look, there's always, Mike Brown once said 3-4 years ago, we don't trade on nostalgia, and I understand that, but there's something cool about seeing guys you grew up watching, players that brought you to the sport, players that crafted special memories as a child. The Reds have long done that. I got a kick out of watching Eric Davis go into the Reds Hall of Fame and watching Barry Larkin get his jersey number retired and seeing Dave Parker go into the Reds Hall of Fame, guys that I grew up watching. The Bengals players of my youth have deserved, the ones who are deserving of the honor are deserving of that moment, and as a fan, so am I. And I think that's the part of this that a lot of people haven't necessarily really completely grasped. Rings of honor are for players, and they're for players who deserve to be inducted into Rings of Honor and Halls of Fame. But at the end of the day, they're for fans. They're for fans of those players. They're for fans of those memories. They're for fans of those teams. And that's the part that I think has been most egregious, if you will, in terms of the Bengals, to this point, refusal to do what they announced they're doing today.
Fracture prints your digital photos directly onto glass, making your favorite moments come alive in vivid color. Hand-assembled in the USA, Fracture glass prints are a unique and beautiful way to display and share your favorite moments. Simply upload your photo at fractureme.com, select your size, and your glass print will be shipped to you, ready to hang with just one screw. Use code POD15 to get 15% off your order today. That's code POD15 at fractureme.com.
And the nominees for Best Supporting Role in an Ocean Ecosystem are Great White Shark, Hammerhead Shark, Goblin Shark.
There are more than 500 species of sharks, and they all play crucial roles.
Cookie Cutter Shark.
Don't miss Sharks, a jaw-dropping exhibit at the California Academy of Sciences with life-size models, fossils, and more.
Wobbegong Shark.
Now open. Make your reservation at calacademy.org.
Zebra Shark.
Absolutely. And, another question I have, Mo, you got to think to yourself also, new uniforms, the Ring of Honor. Correct me if I'm wrong here. The league, obviously 2026 is a big year, whether or not what happens. But let me ask you this, Mo. If I knew I was going to be leaving Cincinnati, would I really even be wasting my time coming out with the Ring of Honor and new uniforms? To me, Mo, call me crazy. I don't know about the whole economics, how this goes or anything. But to me, this is a dang good sign. They're going to be here for quite some time, which is awesome.
I think you can interpret it that way. You can induct people in your Ring of Honor and take them with you. You can take Anthony Munoz's name and put it in your new stadium, and you can take those new uniforms with you. But yeah, look, they're trying, and they're trying to reach out to a fan base that's here. And at the end of the day, yes, all that's going to matter to most folks is, do they win? And do they go about doing everything they can to win? That's what matters most. That's what's going to matter to the most amount of people. But there are other elements that make people feel good. And for years, the Bengals were not associated with things that made people feel good. What they've done this offseason has very little to do with the on and off field stuff, but it does make people feel good. And again, it gets people talking about your franchise in ways that are fun. Nobody's complaining about no practice bubble, and nobody's whining and moaning about the stadium. We're talking about great players from the past and who's deserving of being inducted into the Ring of Honor. Those are fun discussions to have, and they make people feel good about your brand.
Absolutely. And, Elizabeth Blackburn, hats off to her, for her reaching out to the fan base, listening to the fan base. This is exactly what the fans have been waiting for quite some time. Like I say, the fact that they're listening, the fact that she's going on Bengals Twitter, something she really doesn't have to do. It just shows you how far she's willing to go to reach out to the fans. To me, that's doing more than what you're supposed to do, and hats off to that.
I appreciate. Thank you, Greg, for the phone call as always. She seems to get it, and look, that's probably a name we're going to be talking about for many, many, many years with this franchise. That's how it works, But the early returns are really good. Here, to me, is going to be the most interesting thing sometimes about halls of fame and rings of honor are like Anthony Munoz is in. No doubter. Paul Brown is in. Kenny Anderson's in. Ken Riley's in. Chad Johnson is in. And we can go on down the line, right? Lamar Parrish in. Andrew Whitworth in. I asked this question on Twitter. The thing you got to remember now about these things is that they do have to be exclusive. A couple of years ago, we had the conversation about UC basketball and Sean Kilpatrick. I don't think UC basketball does a very good job of celebrating its former players either. Celebrating them. Even if you walk around the new Fifth Third Arena, as great as it is, there's not as much as that as you would like. And there's always this hesitation. Oh, Sean Kilpatrick. Dude, he's second all-time leading scorer, man. He's an All-American. There's this hesitancy. And then when I bring up Sean Kilpatrick, it turns into this discussion where it's like, well, wait a minute. You got to strike a balance between celebrating a certain rung of player but also not watering it down with just everybody. Not everybody's going to be a Ring of Honor guy. Somebody suggested to me on Twitter, well, Giovanni Bernard would be a Ring of Honor guy. Like, no, not everybody's going to be a Ring of Honor guy. I've asked this question on Twitter, and you're not going to get the answer to this. Who is going to end up being the best non-Ring of Honor Bengals player? I had this conversation about Halls of Fame. Like, somebody has to be the best player not in the Hall of Fame. Somebody also has to be the worst player in the Hall of Fame. Like, and I had this conversation about basketball. Like, I think Chris Webber's probably the best, of guys who are eligible, probably the best player who's not in the Hall of Fame, and I can make the case for or against. Who's going to end up being the best Bengals player, ultimately not in the Ring of Honor? Can have that conversation about the Reds in their Hall of Fame, too. I don't know who would be for the Reds. Is it Reggie Sanders? Is it Paul O'Neill? Guys like that? Who's going to end up being the best Bengal? Like, that's the thing about this. It does have to be just exclusive enough. Like, what do you do? Taryn and I were talking about this before the show. What do you do with, what do you do with Carson Palmer? Because on one hand, statistically, he's among the best 4 quarterbacks in the history of the franchise. Realistically, 2 elite years, ugly departure. What do you do with Andy Dalton? Is Andy Dalton on the same level as Kenny Anderson? No. Is he on the same level as Boomer Esiason? Probably. And I'm a huge Boomer guy. But Boomer got him to a Super Bowl. What do you do with, Marvin Lewis? I would say Forrest Gregg took him to a Super Bowl. Sam Weish took him to a Super Bowl. Marvin Lewis? On one hand, modernized the franchise, brought it out of the dark ages, had a bunch of really good teams. On the other hand, bupkis in the postseason. What do you do with Vontaze Burfict? Short burst of excellence where he was, you might say, the best player on the team. Not going to be as remembered for that, and the shelf life was short. Like, it's okay. Anthony Munoz is going to go in, no-brainer. Chad Johnson's going to go in, okay, no-brainer. Ken Riley's going to go in, overdue, but no-brainer. David Fulcher is going to go in, no-brainer. Tim Crumry is going to go, guys like that. Who are the borderline guys that you'll make a case for? Like, my second all-time favorite Bengals player is Jeff Blake. You're not putting Jeff Blake in a Ring of Honor. I love Jeff Blake. If I ever get another Bengals jersey, I'm getting a Jeff Blake. I love Jeff Blake. Jeff Blake's not in the Ring of Honor. So it's got to be exclusive enough that you still have, the best of the best guys. But there does have to be room for, talking about dudes who at least will be under some consideration. Those are fun discussions to have. We are late for a break, 28 from 5. Reds are off. They play the Diamondbacks tomorrow. I mentioned something yesterday that made me think of the words all in when it comes to the Reds. We'll do that and take some more phone calls on ESPN 1530, Cincinnati Sports Station. It's a service of Kelsey's Chevrolet, home of lifetime powertrain protection and guaranteed credit approval. From their family to yours for life, go to KelseyChev.com. Humpty Dan should be in rotation more often, Taryn. We should hear this. Reds are off tonight. They start a 3-game series against the Diamondbacks in Arizona. Tyler Mahle and Taylor Widener will be your pitchers. Widener is a righty. It's like a 9:35 game. The Reds didn't play in the West Coast last year. They've obviously started the season at home, right? All they did was play teams in the Central or Eastern time zone. They haven't played a West Coast game, not even on the West Coast, although I guess this time of year Arizona is 3 hours behind. Based on the reaction on social media, you would think this is a new concept. When they play in Arizona, those games don't start at 7:05 Eastern. I got to stay. Dude, it's a Friday. Take a nap. What are you doing? They're good now. They're worth staying up for, especially on the weekends. Bengals announced today they're launching a Ring of Honor. The 4-person inaugural class will include Anthony Munoz, who will be on this show in 25 minutes, Paul Brown, and 2 others who will be voted on amongst a group of candidates by season ticket holders and suite owners. Round 1 of the Masters is happening right now. We have A three-way tie atop the leaderboard between Brian Harmon, Hideki Matsuyama, and Justin Rose at 3 under. Rose is still playing. He's still on the course. I believe he is on the 13th hole. The other two are in the clubhouse. Jim Herman from UC, 4 over 76 on the day. Jason Kokrak through 14 is 2 over. And most importantly, Taryn, as we're updating people, do we have an update on the monkeys? This morning, apparently on the west side of town, there were a bunch of monkeys that escaped from a private collection of monkeys. Do we have any word? Has anybody reported on the whereabouts of the monkeys?
No monkeys have been recovered yet.
Are we starting to think that there actually aren't monkeys on the loose on the west side of town? I live on the west side of town. Should I be? Are monkeys safe? Monkeys dangerous?
Depends. Do you have a banana with you?
Brandon is calling from Westchester. Brandon, you're on ESPN 1530. How are you?
Good, Mo. How are you doing?
I am wonderful.
Good. So Mo, I'm gonna push back a little bit on what Chad said today. Okay.
Yeah, sure.
And first of all, love your show. First time caller.
Nice to have you. Thank you.
But for Chad to come on and say, hey, he's got to consider the situation. John Cunningham has to consider the situation before making the decision, right? Two wrongs don't make it right. So whatever John Brannon did, right, within the season, right, you're going to sit there and go, hey, let's just we can't fire him because it's going to take too long, right? That doesn't make any sense to me, right? So you've got to make the decision that's best for the program long term. And I saw that Mike Saunders just made a tweet moments ago saying that he's making a decision in the next few days.
Mm-hmm.
You don't make a decision based off of Mike Saunders. You make a decision off the best long term. I think people are forgetting here that this athletic director, John Cunningham, is a former attorney. So what is he doing? He's going through this, and if you go through Justin Williams' report, he's going through this very detailed to make sure that they can fire John Brannon with cause. So, Mo, I just feel like it's all doom and gloom here. I feel like everything's like the sky is falling every day. Can we just all take a deep breath for 1 second and just say, let's go through the process, right? Understand that next year's probably going to be a little rough. We knew that coming in. We knew that regardless if John Brannon's going to be here or not, right?
I think this would.
But with the portal situation, Mo, that it's going to get better.
Sure. Here's where I think this is hard for a lot of people, myself included. It's the lack of a really smoking gun. There clearly are some things that could very well be worth looking into, right? When you have the immediate exodus they had, even in this day and age, if you want to take a look into that makes all the sense in the world, right? I mean, even in this day and age where players are leaving programs very soon after the seasons are ending, let's take a look at that. Then when you have the report of players being unhappy, okay, let's take a look at that. But I think oftentimes in situations like this, there's a really smoking gun. The smoking gun here appears to involve some players who didn't get along with their coach, some liberties being taken with the amount of time that teams are allowed to practice, a handful of situations in which John Brannon was overseeing a practice that probably should have been cut off, and one that reportedly was by medical staff. Not that those things aren't serious. They are, and they should be looked into, and a coach should be punished for those things if they're found to be true. I don't know that those things rise to the level of run the guy out of town. Now, if you want the guy gone, sure it does. But I think what a lot of people are struggling with here is, hey, look, if there's a situation where it looks like a coach is paying players, yeah, fine, because that puts in jeopardy things like postseason eligibility, right? If there's an academic problem, if there's situations like at Louisville where there's strippers involved, these huge smoking guns with titillating circumstances, oh, yeah, we're willing to take our time. Here, it just doesn't feel like what's being alleged matches the damage being done to the program being worth it for a lot of people, and I don't necessarily disagree with those folks.
Well, and I'll say this, Mo, that we're only hearing one side of this too, right?
Sure.
Because you see, we're getting all the tweets from Tom Mars. We're getting the tweets, and we're seeing him responding because he's trying to work the UC crowd. He knows exactly the quicker that he can get them riled up, the quicker UC makes a decision, the quicker John Brannon gets his money, right? So we don't know all the facts. We don't know if there's a smoking gun right now. We don't know if there is something. The one thing that Justin Williams' report said was manipulation and trust.
Mm-hmm.
So those are the two things that are in there. Well, if you look in John Brannon's contract, it basically says the well-being of the students. And I don't have a word for word on the contract right now, Mo, but there is a specific clause that says that the well-being of the students must be adhered to. Well, you could sit there and say manipulation and trust is clear a stay to sit there and say that that's not, that he's not following that.
Sure, but then
say, hey, that's a smoking gun. Right?
No, but I think what you'll have folks say is, well, okay, so manipulation and trust, that could be a coach saying to a guy, hey, you're going to start, and then he doesn't. Which probably
actually find out from the other side, Mo, and we won't until this is resolved. We don't know that. So
you're right.
That's all I wanted to say is I don't want to. I just feel like it's all doom and gloom for the media right now, and let's just I understand that we all want this wrapped up tomorrow. There's nothing I want more either. But let's let the process play out. Let the attorney, what John Cunningham was, let him do his job, right? Because all we're doing is basically helping Tom Mars by sitting there pushing this to sit there and pay for the university by sitting there putting, basically our foot on Johnny Cunningham's neck. That's
I think you're coming at it from a very, very fair and reasonable point of view. Absolutely. I do think it's fair to wonder, whatever they're trying to do with John Cunningham, whatever they're with John Brannon, whatever they find, whatever they allege, whatever they ultimately try to stick him with, and however this ends, whatever happens in the interim, whatever damage is done to the program, is it worth it? The answer may end up being yes. I don't know that it's going to be no. But you can't believe that things are good right now. If this was originally done with the idea that we're going to keep some of these players from hitting the portal and leaving, they're not going to wait much longer. If the idea is we're going to get a new head coach, if you want to set them up for success, do you want to do it in a climate in which they're doing their job amid a backdrop of legal entanglements between a coach and a school? Do you want them up against it, cobbling together a staff at the last minute, putting together a team at the last minute, deciding, making decisions on the players who are on the team right now? The new coach could come in and go, I don't want these guys. Now these guys hit the portal when there's already hundreds of scholarships being filled. Long term, can you recover from this? Sure, you can. But in the interim, I think for a program that at the end of the basketball season, I kind of felt like things were trending slightly upward. They certainly don't now. And I think what a lot of people are weighing is the outcome of the investigation versus the collateral damage of the investigation. And I think there's a lot of people who have concluded that the collateral damage of the investigation is not worth it. It's not worth whatever they conclude. It's not worth whatever they do to get rid of John Brannon without having to pay him. And I understand that point of view as well.
And that makes – listen, I think that makes complete sense what you're saying too, right? I'm just saying it from the other side. I just feel like it's all doom and gloom, right? And so I just wanted to let people know that, hey, there is another side to this that we're not hearing yet, right? That we don't know all the facts yet.
It's all one-sided,
really
yes.
To sit there and say John Brannon's right on all this or his attorney's right. But until we get those facts, and we will get those facts because it's a public institution and we can request records, we'll understand that more. So, Mo, I just wanted to say I really appreciate you being middle of the road on this because I feel like everybody's going one side or the other. And I just really appreciate you taking my call and listening to me on that.
You're way too reasonable. Thank you for the phone call, Brandon. Anthony Munoz joins us in 15 minutes. Brenneman and Jones on baseball next.
ESPN 1530. The Cincinnati Bengals play here.
They sure do. It's 4 minutes after 5 o'clock. This is ESPN 1530. My name is Mo Egger. Good afternoon. Hope you've had a fabulous Thursday. The Cincinnati Bengals this morning announced the formation of a Ring of Honor. They will celebrates and honor on a recurring basis some of their most important figures. They will induct during the 2021 season an inaugural class of 4. 2 of those spots to be determined. That'll be subject to a vote of suite owners and season ticket holders. Those 2 figures, whoever they may be, will join the 2 that were announced today. Paul Brown, obviously no surprise. And equally unsurprising, the induction of, I think most of us would agree, the greatest Bengal of all time, the Pro Football Hall of Famer, and now inaugural Bengals Ring of Honor inductee, the great Anthony Munoz, who's with us this afternoon. It's been a while. Congratulations. How are you?
Mo, thank you. Thank you. Doing well. Doing good. Pleasure talking with you as always. But, yeah, it's been a fun day. And it's exciting, I think, for all the way around. I mean, organization, players, community. So I'm thrilled to be part of the Ring of Honor.
You've achieved football's highest honor. You've had that moment in Canton. There's nothing, I'm sure, that's like that. But that said, there's something special about being honored for the franchise that you're closely identified with, for the franchise that you're at the top of the totem pole for the franchise that I try to forget the 5 minutes you were in Tampa Bay is basically the only franchise you played for. So that said,
Yep.
what does something like this mean?
Well, first of all, you're right with Tampa Bay. I mean, I did put the uniform on, but officially not a Buccaneer because I didn't play any regular season.
You're not going to make their Ring of Honor.
13 years Cincinnati, and that's it. No, it's very special, Mo. First of all, myself and my wife, Dee, are very grateful that, my senior year in college, when over half the teams failed me physically, they weren't going to touch me, that one team took a chance. Paul Brown, the Brown family, the Bengal organization. So the fact that they took a shot, I played 13 years here. We've been here in Cincinnati for 41 years. This is our home. Played every NFL game for the Cincinnati Bengals in my career. So it's extra special. It's extra special that, it started here in 1980. It ended here, and we still live here. So that's what makes it really, really special.
And you go to games. Your family goes to games. To be able to look up, to be able to have them look up and see your name every time the Bengals play, that's not something that most of us will ever experience. That has to be, to even think about that has to be cool.
It really is. When you talk about being humble and humility, back when I was growing up in high school and even through college with the adversity, I never even, thought that this would happen. Now that all this is happening, we still pinch ourselves. But you're right, to be at a game and to look up, between the suite levels and the bowl and to be able to see my name and number, and it's going to be very special. And, so hopefully, as more names and numbers are added, we'll be able not only to gaze up there during the regular season, but to gaze up there during playoffs and hopefully one day soon an AFC championship game, and we can continue to come to the game and look up there as the guys that are playing now can celebrate and when they retire be part of that.
That would be the ultimate. You mentioned you've had the moment in Canton that every pro football player aspires to. Not everybody gets that. Most don't. But what I've always said about a Bengals Ring of Honor is I want on that level, I want Bengals players to get that. I want Bengals players to get that moment where they're acknowledged by fans, where they get celebrated, where their story gets told. And to me, that's what's really special about this. There are former Bengals who I believe should be in Canton. I can make the case like you can for Ken Anderson. I can make the case like you can for Ken Riley. Obviously, Ken Riley's passing means he's not going to get that moment, but his family will. And Ken Anderson is hopefully going to be in the Bengals Ring of Honor very, very, very soon. Speak to what being able to be a part of something like this, basically for non-Hall of Famers, what is something like that going to mean for some of your former teammates and some of the guys that you've watched since you've retired?
It'll be amazing. Again, we can talk about the guys that we believe should be in Canton, and hopefully that happens. But for this, there's so many great players that have played for this organization before I got here. I mean, you think of names. Of course, Kenny Anderson was here prior. I played with Kenny. I mean, guys like Tommy Casanova, Lamar Parrish, Bob Crumpy, Bob Johnson. Then guys I played with, Kenny Anderson and Reggie Williams and Tim Krumrie, Max Montoya, Isaac Curtis. and you just got those. And then the guys after I played, you got the guys like Willie Anderson and, a few of those guys. So it's one of those things that it's time now that people not only here that didn't have a chance to watch us play can see that, there were a lot of great players that played for this organization and have played in the 50-plus years. And I think that's something for the whole country that follows the NFL to be able to see that just because we only have one Pro Football Hall of Famer, it doesn't mean that we don't have other guys that are worthy of being there, that we have a number of guys that have been amazing during their NFL football careers.
You are going to go into the Bengals Ring of Honor with Paul Brown. There are two generations of Bengals fans who weren't around or weren't into the team, don't remember Paul Brown, the coach, don't remember Paul Brown, the executive. Obviously, he didn't coach you, but he was in the front office. He helped select you. He was behind building a couple of Super Bowl teams that you were a part of. When people ask about what it was like to work for Paul Brown, what do you tell them?
Well, I tell them they should really look into just doing a history examination on Paul Brown to see everything he brought, not only to the city of Cincinnati, but Cleveland, Massillon, Ohio State. What he did for the game of football is amazing. You think you take things for granted, like the playbook and the videotaping practices. Those are all Paul Brown innovations. I mean, and a lot more. So I would highly recommend people that just hear about the name to really do a history search and look at what he brought to the game. I mean, until he got sick, and I think it was like my 10th, 11th year, I saw him every time I was at Spinney Field, every time I was at Riverfront Stadium, every time I made a trip, Paul Brown was there. He did not miss a day in the 10, 11 years that I was there. And, of course, prior to that, for the many years he was there before I got there. So, and that's what I talk about. And that was the fun thing for me when I went into Paul Brown Stadium and when Mike and the entire family was there to let me know that what they were doing. After the initial announcement, and I just kind of was, really humbled by that, is we started sharing stories I shared my stories about Paul Brown, and Mike shared stories, Forrest Gregg, and that's the great thing about what's going to happen is you get an opportunity, hopefully through the documentation, through archives, of putting those things together. So like you said, so people that never really saw Paul Brown coach or when he was around can see that. And guys, and people that never saw me play. I mean, there's plenty of, because I'm so much older now, that they're going to start recording that and have archives and documentations that really let people see the history of this organization.
The great Anthony Munoz with us. Speaking of people who never saw you play, this has driven me nuts. You and I are the same. We want the Bengals to take Penei Sewell, right? And I'm going to ask you about that. So this guy shows up on my radar in December before the season's over. He's generating a lot of draft buzz. And there's these draft analysts who are like, yeah, you know what? He could be the next Anthony Munoz. And I'm going, hang on a second. A, you never saw Anthony play. I did. B, that's incredibly unfair to do to the guy. Don't do that. Compare him to, I don't know, somebody who's not quite Anthony Munoz. I don't know what I'm asking you to say, but this has been something I've been ranting about for months. You want to take Penei Sewell? Great. I hope he's awesome. I want to take him. Stop comparing him to Anthony Munoz.
For me, it's a thrill to hear that. But, I've had a chance, being a USC guy, Pac-12 guy. I saw him play, right when he got in the starting lineup. He's been a nemesis to my Trojans. I was impressed from the very first time I saw the guy play. I thought he was smaller than he is. They're saying he's like 330. He moves amazingly out in open space, great flexibility. He's got a nastiness to him. So from what I've seen, unless
Fracture prints your digital photos directly onto glass, making your favorite moments come alive in vivid color. Hand-assembled in the USA, Fracture glass prints are a unique and beautiful way to display and share your favorite moments. Simply upload your photo at fractureme.com, select your size, and your glass print will be shipped to you, ready to hang with just one screw. Use code POD15 to get 15% off your order today. That's code POD15 at fractureme.com.
And the nominees for Best Supporting Role in an Ocean Ecosystem are Great White Shark, Hammerhead Shark, Goblin Shark,
There are more than 500 species of sharks, and they all play crucial roles.
Cookie cutter shark.
Don't miss Sharks, a jaw-dropping exhibit at the California Academy of Sciences with life-size models, fossils, and more.
Wabagong shark.
Now open. Make your reservation at calacademy.org.
Zebra shark.
I don't really know what I'm looking for in an offensive tackle. I think he's pretty good. And, I've heard a couple of things as everyone gets scrutinized during the, during the pre-draft, his arms are a little short. He's a little round. I'm thinking, you know what? At 330, we're all going to be a little round. At 260, I'm a little round. I mean, and I'm a lot less weight than when I was playing. So I think you can pick, everybody apart. But from what I've seen, I think he'd be a good fit here.
The great Anthony Munoz, inaugural member of the Bengals Ring of Honor. It's awesome that we get a chance to have this conversation, and it's awesome that we'll get a chance to talk about this on a recurring basis with guys you played with guys that you've watched. It's awesome. Very quickly, how is the foundation doing?
Foundation's doing great. We're celebrating 20 years this year. We're off. The first 3 months of the year have been phenomenal in retaining, bringing on new partners, and financially being able to do even a little more than what we've been doing. We had to reinvent ourselves last year because of COVID, which was a good thing. I think our reach went a little further with a lot of the virtual stuff we did. So now, with that being said, as we start to open up and get back in person, we've learned that. Now we can utilize some of that virtual, filming and taping and use those as our assets. But, I'm still energized. As an old guy, it's something my wife and I are constantly talking about. How much longer? And I keep saying, well, if things keep going like this, I might give it another 30, 40. No, I'm just not 30, 40. But, it's going well. We're going to have a chance again this year, Mo, to really recognize and celebrate a lot of the young talent in this great community through our 7 programs. So I appreciate you asking. And, again, I think we're going to get back to heading out to Westchester for our Top Golf tailgate. So hopefully
we're there.
We can have you there again.
We're there. Yes. Just tell us when. And we missed doing that show last year. So, yes, we want to come back. Just let us know. And we'll have more Ring of Honor stuff to talk about. So that'll be a lot of fun. Congratulations. This was a no-brainer. And, when we were talking about the possibility of a Bengals Ring of Honor, we all knew you would be included. We all knew you would be in that inaugural class. That doesn't make it any less special for us as fans, and I'm sure for you as an inductee. I appreciate you joining me. It's always good to have you on, Anthony. Thanks so much.
All right, Mo. Thank you. Have a great night. Appreciate it.
You got it. The great Anthony Munoz. What is awesome about him is he's in the Hall of Fame. He is the only, Terrell Owens is in the Hall of Fame, but you don't think of him as a Bengal. And Paul Brown is in the Hall of Fame, but frankly, you think of him as, winning championships with the Browns. Anthony Munoz is the only Bengal Hall of Famer. And I certainly can make the case for Ken Riley. I believe he belongs in. Could certainly make the case for Kenny Anderson and Willie Anderson. I believe those players deserve – I think Willie Anderson deserves a really strong look. I think Kenny Anderson deserves to be in. But – if you have to have one, if you're stuck with one, you want it to be somebody the caliber of Anthony Munoz. And what makes it special when he goes into the Bengals Ring of Honor is you're celebrating the player. And there are people who consider Anthony the greatest offensive lineman of all time. And that may be true. He's certainly in the conversation. I've never met a better human being. I mean, I've said there's 2 people I hold my tongue around. My grandmother, who passed 3 months ago, and Anthony Munoz. That is, you're celebrating the player, but when it comes to Anthony, anybody who's ever been around him, anybody who's ever had a chance to listen to him speak, anybody who's become remotely familiar with the work that his foundation does, you're celebrating the man as well. And that's what makes it cool. That's what makes it cool having a guy like Anthony as a franchise icon. One day, I hope there's a statue of him, and you could talk about Anthony for an hour and never mention the kind of player that he was. And he's one of the greatest to ever play the game. So it's always a treat to get a chance to talk to him. And, I didn't go to Canton in 1998 and watch him get inducted. I will be at Paul Brown Stadium to watch him go into the Bengals Ring of Honor with 3 inductees. And That certainly is deserved. That's a cool part of it. 18 minutes after 5 o'clock. I'm crossing complaining about the Bengals not having a Ring of Honor off my list. And now the conversation can turn fun, so we'll have it next on ESPN 1530. I believe we are guest-free the rest of the way, 23 minutes after 5 o'clock. Are we playing Monkeys? The Monkeys because of the Monkeys? Caller requested to hear this. This reminds me of Davy Jones. Reminds me of three things. Two are very, very closely tied to each other. Davy Jones on the Brady Bunch. Davy Jones in the Brady Bunch movie. And Davy Jones was, he did the chicken dance at Oktoberfest, and I was there for that. I think it was like 2000. And he sang this song. Somebody requested this because they like the Monkeys or because... Do we know if Monkeys were officially loose? We really gotten to the bottom of this? See, this is what happens all day long. You know, I start my day, I'm in this little sports cocoon, and I don't emerge from it till after 6 o'clock, and you don't know what's happening in the world. So when I went into the little sports cocoon, Monkeys were running rampant on the west side of town. I don't have time for that, even though I live on the west side. I have a sports show to prepare for, okay? I have to stick to sports all day long. I don't have room for distractions. I'm like, these football coaches who've never, they've never heard of social media, and they call it things like MyFace and Twitter and things like that. So that's what I do. I'm in a sports bubble, sports cocoon. So, Monkeys could have been, looting on the west side of town and destroying. I would have no idea. But now, in 35 minutes, I'm back to being a normal person. And then, other stuff's going on. And now I learn about. So when I drive home tonight, is like Glenway Avenue going to be overrun by monkeys? What do we know what happened with the monkeys that were free and running rampant on the west? Have they been?
They're still on the loose.
They're still on the loose. Have they been spotted?
Not since last night.
So monkeys got free on the west side last night. Has anybody seen them? Nobody's seen them since last night. So they literally could be. How far can a monkey travel?
I'm not familiar with the west side, so.
Well, I'm not familiar with monkeys, but so if let's 9 o'clock last night, monkey gets free. Where could a monkey be by now? Like, how much ground can a monkey cut? Are they all traveling in a pack? The person who owns the monkeys, do they get the monkeys back? Or now do the monkeys go to the zoo or some sort of monkey sanctuary?
We need to get a monkey expert on for tomorrow, maybe.
Like a zoologist? I mean, is there a such thing as a monkey expert? Is there a person who specializes? You know what? I'm sure there is. When you decide to go into veterinary medicine, I'm sure you can choose monkeys as like your specialty, your area of expertise. But that's more from a physical health standpoint. I guess they would know how much ground a monkey could cover. I don't even know. I'm asking this in all seriousness. Are monkeys considered dangerous animals? There was that one movie with the guy from Grey's Anatomy, that dude, and Dustin Hoffman, and there was a monkey that caused this flesh-eating bacteria illness, and I saw it on a date in high school, which was bad choice by me, and it was started with a monkey. That monkey, dangerous. These are not those kind of monkeys, correct?
I don't think so. Maybe they want to go see Kong vs. Godzilla. Maybe.
Could be, yes. Outbreak was that movie that I saw. The monkey infected everybody, like the whole country except for like a few people. And Rene Russo was in it. All right. Have we covered the monkey? Have we given enough proper coverage to the monkey story on the west side? Scott is bring some sanity to this. Scott, how are you?
I'm afraid I can't do that for you because the last I heard, they were on the last train to Clarksville.
Oh, very, very. See, Scott brought it full circle.
So I thought you'd be interested in this only because my son told me this, and I thought it was very interesting. Jonathan India on Wednesday. Do you know what his odds were to drive in a run?
No.
Minus 800. To
drive in one run in yesterday's game.
To have an RBI in that game. minus 800.
Well,
yeah, that's a big number.
It's a huge number.
I was calling. How are they ever going to catch up with the Ring of Honor? I realize that you can never catch up, if you will, but I mean, they're so far behind now. If they do 4 a year, not in any of our lifetimes will they ever, get somebody like a Carl Pickens in, or some of those fringe guys that you were kind of mentioning.
I think there's guys like him I think are interesting because his numbers were fantastic. He was not the most likable guy, and he was on terrible teams. So, what level of support would he get either inside the organization or from fans? And then there's, if obviously a requirement is retirement, think of all of the people that we could be talking about, from AJ to Geno Atkins to Carlos Dunlap to Andy Dalton to Andrew Whitworth.
Well, that's what I'm saying. They're not. I mean, they're like 20 years out. If you take a look at Max Montoya and David Fulcher, James Brooks, Benson, Boomer, Chad, TJ, Whitworth, Lapp. I'm just, naming things that were off the top of my head. Those guys, I feel like, have to get in before Geno does.
Sure.
Before AJ does.
Yeah.
So how far out are those guys? I mean, when this was initially mentioned, I was ecstatic. I thought it was great. But then I thought, 4? Only 4? I mean, you've been in business for 53 years, 54 years. Shouldn't you maybe, at least for your first class, bring in a few more?
So, to a degree, that's why I would have kept out Paul Brown. That sounds ridiculous because he's Paul Brown. Yeah. At the same time, his name is on the stadium.
Right.
You have infinite opportunities to celebrate Paul Brown. You could do that whenever. So, what if you did include Paul and you at least went with Munoz and 3 other guys, just to get a little bit of a lead on playing catch-up? But you're right. I mean, you're going to go for a long time with the Bengals having a Ring of Honor and players who are clearly deserving, and not just players, coaches. I mean, there's 3 that you could talk about. Forrest Gregg took him to a Super Bowl. Sam Weiss took him to a Super Bowl. Say which one about Marvin, but he was there 16 years. Leads the franchise in wins and went to the playoffs 7 times. There's at least something to consider there. You're going to go for a long time with people who are at least deserving of consideration, who don't even really seriously get considered. And that is a byproduct of how long they waited. But I do think you have to in effect right some wrongs. And it's why I say this year you got to do Riley, you got to do Kenny Anderson, because those guys both – yeah, they both should have had this done already. And to me, those are the 2 guys who are closest to being Pro Football Hall of Famers that are eligible.
Right. No, I totally agree. I kind of wish that maybe they would have done a little more. I don't think Paul Brown, granted, it's just 1.
Yeah.
So I don't see any harm in doing Paul Brown because he is.
No, there's no harm. But I mean, if you were going to keep it to 4, and you're trying to, get this rolling, could you have held Paul off and done him later? Again, there's been no shortage of accolades for Paul Brown. I certainly also can't say, all right, he is Paul Brown. I guess it would look kind of stupid if he wasn't in your Ring of Honor. So I could go both ways. But, I mean, it's going to be a really long time. And I do think it's going to be interesting to see what you do with a certain level of player, because – you're going to have guys who are really good in short bursts but didn't really stick very long. You're going to have guys who are excellent on bad teams. You're going to have guys who are maybe beloved figures on winning teams. You're going to have guys who are maybe great statistically but never really connected with the public. You're going to have guys whose contributions maybe can't be measured statistically. There's lots of different ways to look at this, and it's why I think it's going to be interesting to talk about some of these individual cases, but you're really not going to get to them until the no-brainers are in, and there are a lot of no-brainers.
Right. Now, a lot of no-brainers. I mean, nobody's even mentioned Collinsworth. I mean, we've talked all day, and I don't think I've heard Collinsworth's name mentioned once.
Isaac Curtis.
Isaac Curtis is another.
Lamar Parrish. I mean, there's Corey Dillon. I mean, there really are, for folks who don't pay attention. They go, it's the Bengals. They haven't won anything. How many great players could they have? And I'm like, actually dozens. Actually dozens. So I'm glad they're doing it. I wish it would have been done a while ago, but at least we can have the discussion.
Yep, that's right.
Scott, thanks.
All right.
All right, 27 away from 6. 513-749-1530. But this is, I joked at the top of the show that I've crossed complaining about the Bengals not having a Ring of Honor off my list of things to do on a slow topic day, right? And it's always been one of those, every single year you could talk, why don't they have a Ring of Honor? Why don't they do that? Why don't they celebrate their former players? And it's come up intermittently. Usually there's a timely aspect to it. Maybe it's the Reds having a Hall of Fame induction, or another team, another football team announcing its Ring of Honor or Hall of Fame class. But I've always done this. There's never been a downside. Like it's one of those, from my standpoint, sports talk radio topics that on the surface sound great, but you're not going to find anybody who's like, you know what, I don't want a Ring of Honor. I mean, there's no con, there's no opposition to a Ring of Honor. But I've said for years, the conversation doesn't go away if they end up having a Ring of Honor one day. It just shifts, and it shifts to something much more fun. Today, Bengals fans are engaging in harmless debates about who should be in the team's Ring of Honor, the first ever Ring of Honor class. Now, again, for me, it's Munoz, Paul Brown, Ken Riley, Ken Anderson. And in short order, I'm putting in Forrest Gregg and Sam Weish. And, then we can go from there. There's going to be some who disagree and go, look, you got to put Chad in, or Boomer's got to go. And those are fun discussions to have. Hall of Fame discussions are fun. Ring of Honor discussions are fun. And today, for a franchise which has often not been associated with fun, fans are having fun with it. And people aren't complaining about the bad record they had last year, the fact they haven't won a playoff game in forever. Nobody's crying about stadium deals. It's talking about former players, franchise greats, awesome moments, players that have made people feel good, and there is value in that. You, as an individual fan, might not care, and that's okay. There's no one way to follow a football team. The only thing that might matter to you is the nuts and bolts of winning. But that's not everybody. There is value. There is value in doing that. It's also, there's something about listening. There's something about showing that you're paying attention, that you're in tune with your fan base. The Bengals aren't done yet, and they have a ways to go. They really do. But it's a step in the right direction. And yes, it's overdue, painfully overdue. But I'm not going to crush the people who are doing what's right now for what hasn't been done in the past, not on a day like today. I'm glad they're doing it. 24 from 6. More of your phone calls on ESPN 1530, Cincinnati Sports Station. Sports Update is a service of Kelsey Chevrolet, home of lifetime powertrain protection and guaranteed credit approval from their family to yours for life. Go to kelseychev.com. By the way, really quick before I do the sports, I got a text here from Brad Underwood at Local 12, who says no monkeys have been found. Brad Underwood is married to a woman who was on Channel 5, and to this day, my friends and I talk about a story that she reported one night, and it remains the most fascinating news story I've ever seen in my life. It involved a guy and his buddy hanging out, and his guy, like these two guys are hanging out, and the one dude meets a woman at the bar, and they're staying at a hotel to get away from, I think, their girlfriends, and he brings the girl back, and things happen. And he wakes up, and he notices his wallet has been disrupted. And she went to Walmart, and she booked a bunch of, like, airline tickets or something. But she still came back to the room and put the wallet back in. But he couldn't tell his girlfriend that his identity had been stolen. So Brad Underwood's wife, Emily, I never forget watching this story and talking about it on the radio, and I never got the conclusion. So maybe Brad can text me about that in addition to the monkeys. What happened to the guy who's got his identity stolen, but he couldn't go on camera to talk about it? I was serious. I think it was on after like Sunday Night Football or something. And my buddies and I talked about this, it's like 4 or 5 years ago, nonstop. We wanted to find out more about the guy. We wanted to find out more about the girl. We wanted to just find out more about the story. He couldn't tell he might have been married, couldn't tell his significant other that he was out with his buddy, met some girl. They went back to the room. She, as he falls asleep, grabs his wallet, goes to Walmart, books a bunch of airline trips, comes back to the hotel, returns the wallet, and now the guy's got his identity, stolen. They arrest the woman, but he can't go to court because his wife, it's just remarkable. And Brad Underwood's wife told that on television, and it still remains the most fascinating. Look it up. I don't remember the name of the people involved, but the guy couldn't give his name. He couldn't do an on-camera interview. All right, what were we doing? Oh, yeah, Reds are off. Tomorrow, Tyler Mahle is going to pitch against Taylor Widener. Tyler versus Taylor. 9:40 or 9:30, late tomorrow, 700 WLW. Bengals have announced their Ring of Honor is going to happen. Inaugural class will include Paul Brown, Anthony Munoz, and then 2 players that season ticket holders and suite owners will vote on later this spring. Justin Rose has a 3-shot lead at the Masters. He is 6 under through 16. Jim Herman didn't have a great day, 4 over 76. And Jason Kokrak, the Xavier product, 1 under for the day. He is currently tied for 8th place. There you go. You find it? Dude, it's look it up. That story captured my imagination more than the monkeys. All right, should we talk to people on the phone about sports? Okay. Brian's in Fort Wright. You're on ESPN 1530. How are you?
Hey, Mo. How you doing today?
Good, man. What's happening?
Good. Hey, I'm super excited about the Ring of Honor, and excited. I think it's a big step in the right direction, but I was thinking, can we take at least 1 or 2 more steps and maybe start retiring some numbers? Is it going to include that? And then can we at least put some banners on the wall that say we have 2 AFC championships?
That would be nice. Yes. Why stop there? Football jersey retirements, my understanding is, and I could be wrong about this, my understanding is that is not that commonplace around the NFL. If you think about it, in camp you got to have 90 guys, right? So there's only 100 digits from 0 to 99. So you can only retire, you can only retire so many jersey numbers. And to a degree, it's been diluted. Like, you would retire Kenny Anderson's 14, but a player has worn it since. You would retire Boomer Esiason's 7, right? But his number has been worn since. So I'm in favor of, like, there's different tiers. Like, the Reds have Hall of Famers, but then they have guys whose jerseys they retire. I think you do the absolute upper crust of your Ring of Honor guys, and mathematically, again, there's only so many that you could really retire because you got to have 90 numbers for camp. So I think therein lies the reason. But I mean, to me, something celebrating the 81 team, something celebrating the 88 team, heck, something celebrating teams that didn't go to the Super Bowl but were really, really good. I think that would help. And can they dust off those big signs, murals, whatever they are, of the players who are in Paul Brown Stadium and the concourses that look like they haven't been dusted in 20 years?
And if it's concrete, at least paint it orange or black. I'm tired of staring at concrete.
You and I are on the same page there.
Okay, have a great day.
All right, thank you so much. Have you found the story? I'm gonna find it as I talk to people. Brad is in Westchester. You're on ESPN 1530.
Hey, Mo, it's Brad here in Westchester. Just quick piggyback on Brian there. You talked about all the different players and then the great legends, and how are they going to put that many people on the ring? Is there going to be one ring? Is there going to be just 4 per year? Do you think there's going to be multiple players, for multiple games? I'm going to hang up and let you talk.
Thank you. I appreciate it. My understanding is they've said recurring. They haven't said every year. The first class is going to be 4. My guess is that's going to be the class size every single year. The Reds don't do a Hall of Fame class every year. They do it every 2 years. The Reds don't have the backlog that the Bengals do. But, yeah, what it feels like is, in talking with Elizabeth Blackburn, that a lot of this is still being worked out, but they're going to do it on a recurring basis. Whether it's every single year or every other year remains to be seen. Likely every year. And they'll designate one game as the Ring of Honor game. And it'll be 4 players. Or 4 people, because obviously there's coaches who are going to be candidates as well. But the word that has been used by the Bengals is recurring. And again, I don't want to say fear. Here's what I was really, really hoping wouldn't be the case. That they would say, all right, Ring of Honor, here's the deal. These 30 guys, they're going in. There's your Ring of Honor. We're done. Like, that wouldn't have been fun. That would have diluted the whole thing. That would have watered it down. I mean, it just, to me, having 4 guys allows for 4 different stories to be told, 4 different people to be in the spotlight, 4 different people to kind of get their moment, 4 different people to maybe make a brief speech or be a part of an event. So I'm glad they're not doing it all en masse. But, yeah, it's going to be done on a recurring basis. Should be good. 13 away from 6. We'll get to John, we'll get to Brad, and we'll get to you on ESPN 1530, Cincinnati Sports Station. Reds, don't play today. Take more phone calls. Have 3 minutes? Have 3 minutes here? Okay. John in Goshen, you're on ESPN 1530. How are you?
I'm wonderful. How are you doing, Mo?
I'm really, 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 really well.
Oh, good. I had a thought. I thought I'd share it with you. Number one, because you have a very popular radio show and a lot of people listen to you.
Wait, did you say popular?
I did.
Okay.
Okay. And
everything's relative.
You also have connections with the Bengals. I agree totally with you that 4 players a year is going to take forever for them to get caught up. My thought was, and then I'll hang up, why not do 1 player for each of the 8 home games? That way you'd get 8 people a year. Just wanted to hear what you thought about it, and thanks for taking my call.
Completely on board. Thank you, John. Completely on board. I don't know what the logistics involved there are. I'm also going to guess. We don't have the schedule. We know who they play, but we don't know when. I'm also going to guess that they would I'm going to guess they don't want to do this for a Steelers game or for when Patrick Mahomes comes. So my guess is they would like to do the Ring of Honor game for a game in which they feel like the ceremony can maybe sell some tickets. And how much do you cut into that by doing it across 8 games? But yeah, I would not be opposed to that at all. I would wonder if the argument against that is it waters down those ceremonies if you have 8 of them. But since you have so many players, I would in an effort to sort of get some of these guys their moment, and get caught up, if you will. I wouldn't be against it. I would wonder what the logistics are behind that. And I'm sort of working through it in my head as the music's playing. It's time to go. We're finished. Taryn, what's on the show tomorrow?
To be determined.
Stick around for that, starting at 3:05. Have a great night. This is ESPN 1530, Cincinnati Sports Station.
Fracture prints your digital photos directly onto glass, making your favorite moments come alive in vivid color. Hand assembled in the USA, Fracture glass prints are a unique and beautiful way to display and share your favorite moments. Simply upload your photo at fractureme.com, select your size, and your glass print will be shipped to you, ready to hang with just 1 screw. Use code POD15 to get 15% off your order today. That's code POD15 at fractureme.com.